The car's horn blared endlessly, a dying scream trapped between crushed metal. 5-year-old Izuku blinked blood from his lashes, watching the doctor's gloved hands flutter above him like panicked birds. The rooftop of the children's home always smelled like wet laundry and loneliness. 14-year-old Izuku pressed his split knuckles against the rusted railing, savoring the sting. The bruises from Kaken's latest lesson throbbed in time with his heartbeat. Downstairs, the caretakers would be counting heads for curfew. They'd mark him present without looking up from their paperwork. Quirkless Deku wasn't worth the effort of a real search. His fingers crept beneath his shirt, tracing the coin-sized hollow above his ribs. The doctors had called it a deformity. The other kids called it disgusting. A rusted nail glittered in the gutter. Izuku picked it up, rolling it between his fingers. Last week it had been a shard of soda can. The week before, a pebble from the playground. He went into his room. Lucky, he was able to have his own room and put the rusted nail on his desk as he sat down on his bed tired. His room was small, barely fitting a bed and a small desk. But he gets some privacy. He has about 3 hours until dinner is ready. The iron ball rolled off the desk with a heavy thunk, bouncing once before coming to rest against the toe of his shoe. Izuku sighed and bent to pick it up, only for his fingers to pass right through the surface as if it were made of smoke. A cold shock raced up his arm as the ball dissolved into liquid metal, slithering across his skin like quicksilver before vanishing into the hollow above his ribs. His breath hitched. The sensation wasn't painful, but it was wrong, like swallowing a spoonful of ice that refused to melt. Then his bones began to crack. Izuku clamped both hands over his mouth as his skin rippled, darkening to a dull gunmetal gray. His muscles writhed beneath the surface, reshaping themselves, thickening at the thighs and forearms while his torso swelled into a seamless, featureless mass. When the transformation finished, he staggered under his new weight, the wooden frame of his bed groaning ominously beneath him. He lifted one arm, turning it slowly in the dim light. No joints, no fingers. Just smooth, cold iron ending in blunt, hammer-like protrusions where his hands should be. Tentatively, he tapped a forearm against the wall. The impact left a dent in the plaster. Panic flared, but he smothered it quickly. Noise meant attention, and attention meant trouble. Carefully, he shifted his weight forward, testing his balance. The floorboards creaked in protest, but held. His reflection in the chipped mirror above the desk was a nightmare, a headless, alien thing with limbs too thick in some places, too thin in others. The hollow in his chest pulsed faintly, a dull glow visible through the iron. Quirk. The word burned in his throat. He had one, had always had one. The realization settled over him like a second skin, heavy and sharp-edged. Outside, a siren wailed in the distance. Somewhere in the city, a hero was fighting a villain. Izuku curled his metallic fingers into fists. No, this wasn't happening. He wasn't breathing. Did he need to breathe like this? His pulse hammered in ears he no longer had. He clawed at his iron chest, blunt digits scraping uselessly against smooth metal. Think. He squeezed his eyes shut. Maybe concentration would reverse it. But when he opened them again, the world still tilted at the wrong angle through a lopsided, jointless body. The panic crested when he staggered into the desk, knocking the iron ball onto the floor. The moment it clattered against the wood, the transformation unraveled like a snapped rubber band. His ribs cracked inward, flesh bubbling up to reclaim its shape. He gagged as the metal rushed out of him, a cold, wet expulsion, and collapsed onto his knees just in time to see the iron ball roll to a stop against the wall. Human hands, human knees. The hollow in his chest yawned empty. Izuku stared at the ball, then at his palms, then back at the ball. A hysterical laugh bubbled up his throat. He slapped a hand over his mouth before it could escape. Quirk, actual quirk, not a deformity, not a birth defect. The iron ball gleamed dully in the lamplight, innocuous as a paperweight. He snatched it up, turned it over in trembling fingers. One push. That's all it took. One push into the hollow and... The transformation came faster this time. Liquid metal surged up his arm before he could flinch, and within seconds he was iron again. Stronger, heavier, wrong-shaped, but right. Izuku lifted his hammer hand, flexed it. The creak of shifting metal was louder than he expected. Outside, voices drifted down the hall, caretakers doing rounds. He froze if they saw him like this. His gaze darted to the iron ball on the floor. No, not a ball anymore, a part of him. He reached down, pressed a blunted finger to it. The metal yielded like wet clay, absorbing into his form with a quiet slurp. The hollow in his chest glowed faintly, satisfied. He put on his jacket and ran out the house with the iron ball in his pocket. He ran to the old beach. He had 2 hours until dinner will be ready. He got to Tacoba Municipal. With a smile on his face, it was filled with trash, perfect for him to test out his quirk. He went into a more private area of the beach, trash covering him, before he took off his shirt. He put the iron ball into his chest again. The transformation rippled through him faster now, muscle memory already adapting to the unnatural shift. His skin hardened to dark iron, his fingers melted into blunt weapons, and the strange glow pulsed inside his hollow like a second heartbeat. The beach air tasted like salt and rust, thick in a throat that shouldn't need air. He flexed his new limbs, listening to the quiet groan of metal under tension. A gutted refrigerator lay half-buried in the sand nearby. Izuku stepped forward, hesitated, then swung. The impact sent a shockwave up his arm, rattling his entire form. The refrigerator door crumpled inward like wet cardboard. Izuku stared. He'd expected resistance, but his iron body moved with terrifying ease. A wild grin split his face, or where his face should have been. He wasn't sure if he still had one. Testing, he lifted his other arm and brought it down on a microwave tower. The stacked appliances exploded outward in a screech of warped metal. One flying shard sliced through the air toward him, only to dissolve the moment it touched his iron skin, absorbed like raindrops into a pond. The hollow in his chest flared brighter, warmer. Experimentally, he reached for a twisted bicycle frame and pressed his palm against it. The metal shivered under his touch, then liquefied, streaming up his arm in silver rivulets. He felt it merge with him, his mass increasing slightly, the edges of his form sharpening. The sensation was dizzying. He could eat metal. A distant crash echoed from further down the beach. Voices, laughter, other kids probably skipping curfew like him. Izuku tensed. If they saw him like this. The panic lasted only a second before he forced it down. No, this was his quirk, his power, let them stare. He stepped deeper into the trash piles, iron feet sinking slightly into the sand. A broken car engine caught his eye, rusted but massive. Perfect. He crouched, pressed both hands against it, and pulled asterisk. The engine groaned, then shattered into molten streams that surged into his chest. The hollow burned, drinking it greedily. His form thickened, shoulders broadening, limbs elongating. He was bigger now, stronger. Somewhere beyond the trash, a scream cut through the night. Izuku turned, just in time to see a figure crumple under the weight of a collapsing refrigerator. Iron legs already moving before he could think. He ran asterisk.